The story begins with Loki, who is still alive and standing before Thanos' servant, the Other. The Other has already discovered that the tesseract has been activated on Earth. Because of this, he gives Loki a powerful scepter powered by the Mind Stone. He tells Loki that his Chitauri army will follow him, making it easy for him to conquer Earth. In return, Loki must bring the tesseract back to him. Loki agrees to the deal. Meanwhile, in the Mojave Desert, we see the SHIELD organization Joint Dark Energy Facility, where Nick Fury has arrived with Maria Hill. The tesseract has suddenly become active, and Fury immediately orders Phil Coulson to evacuate the entire base. He then heads to see Dr. Erik Selvig, who has been researching the tesseract. Fury asks him how they can be so close to drawing energy from it, yet still have no way to stop it. Selvig explains that they simply don't have the resources, and his calculations are still incomplete. He also reveals that the tesseract has begun releasing small amounts of gamma radiation. At that moment, Clint Barton arrives and tells them that he has been monitoring Selvig for a long time, but Selvig never activated the tesseract. According to him, it switched on by itself, which could mean it was activated from another world. Suddenly, the energy coming from the tesseract starts increasing rapidly. A portal opens, and Loki steps through it. He immediately attacks the agents and starts taking them down one by one. The soldiers fire at him, but nothing seems to affect him, and he easily wipes them out. Barton attacks Loki, but Loki uses the scepter to take control of his mind, turning him into a loyal servant. He does the same to Selvig and several other people. Nick Fury witnesses everything and quietly grabs the tesseract, hoping to escape with it. Loki notices him and demands that he hand it over, claiming that he wants to free humanity from freedom itself. Fury instantly realizes that Loki's true goal is to take over Earth. Barton, now completely under Loki's control, tells him that the open portal is causing an energy surge that will soon trigger a massive explosion. He also claims that Fury is trying to trap them inside the collapsing facility. Realizing they need to leave immediately, Loki orders everyone out. Barton opens fire on Fury and manages to steal the suitcase containing the tesseract before escaping with Loki and the others. Fortunately, Fury survives because of his bulletproof vest. He quickly informs Maria Hill that Barton has joined Loki's side. Barton then attacks Maria, but she manages to survive and fights back. However, Loki's group escapes in a vehicle before she can stop them. Maria gives chase while Fury struggles to escape the underground facility, which is now falling apart around them. As Maria continues pursuing Loki, Barton does everything he can to slow her down. Then the unstable portal finally detonates, triggering a massive explosion that destroys the entire facility. Maria becomes trapped under the rubble, although Coulson and several agents manage to escape safely. Loki and his followers make their way through an underground tunnel and disappear. Nick Fury tries firing at Loki, but Loki causes Fury's helicopter to crash. Fury survives by jumping clear, but he is unable to stop Loki from getting away. Afterward, he informs Coulson and Maria that the tesseract is now in enemy hands. With no other options left, Fury decides it's finally time to bring the Avengers together. Elsewhere, we meet Natasha Romanoff, also known as Black Widow. She is currently on a mission involving a Russian general named Luchkov, who has been illegally selling weapons to the highest bidders. Natasha skillfully manipulates him into revealing valuable information. During the interrogation, she receives a call from Phil Coulson. He tells her that they are facing a major threat and that Barton has become a danger to SHIELD. He orders her to return immediately. Natasha quickly takes down Luchkov and all of his men with ease. Coulson then explains that Barton is missing and that they need to assemble the Avengers to stop Loki. Their first step is finding Bruce Banner. Natasha travels to Kolkata, India, where Bruce has been hiding while working as a doctor and helping local people. To approach him, Natasha sends a young girl to ask for help. The girl tells Bruce that her father is very sick and can no longer speak. Wanting to help, Bruce follows her. She leads him to a house outside the city, but then suddenly runs away. Bruce immediately realizes that he's been set up. Moments later, Natasha steps out and reveals herself. Bruce asks if she has come to kill him. Natasha calmly explains that she has no intention of doing that. She tells him that she works for SHIELD, that Nick Fury trusts him, and that Fury has even kept his enemies from tracking him down. She then explains the situation with the tesseract. According to Natasha, the cube contains enough power to destroy entire worlds, emits gamma radiation, and has now been stolen. Because of his expertise with gamma radiation, SHIELD needs his help to track it down. After hearing everything, Bruce agrees to help. Meanwhile, we see Nick Fury meeting with the World Security Council to discuss the Avengers. The World Security Council is a group of politicians from Earth's most powerful nations, and they oversee S.H.I.E.L.D., which is directed by Fury himself. Fury explains the situation with Loki and insists that it's time to activate the Avengers initiative. However, the council members remind him that the Avengers initiative was already shut down. They believe S.H.I.E.L.D. should focus on Phase 2 instead. Fury argues that Phase 2 isn't ready yet, and that's exactly why he's putting his faith in the Avengers. He believes they're the best chance Earth has. We then see Steve Rogers training by hitting a punching bag. As he works out, memories of his past begin flooding back, including the years he spent frozen in the ice. Soon, Nick Fury arrives and tells him about the new mission. Fury explains that when Howard Stark was searching the ocean for Steve, he discovered the tesseract. Their plan was to use its incredible power as a source of unlimited energy, but Loki has now stolen it. Fury asks for Steve's help in getting it back. Steve responds by saying that maybe they should have left the tesseract at the bottom of the ocean. Meanwhile, Tony Stark is out near the water, putting the finishing touches on Stark Tower. He successfully switches the building over to its massive arc reactor, allowing the tower to power itself for years without needing outside energy. After the successful test, Tony starts celebrating with pepper pots. That's when Agent Coulson arrives and hands Tony a file. Tony jokes that S.H.I.E.L.D. once decided he wasn't even qualified to join the Avengers and reminds Coulson that Fury called him a selfish narcissist. When Tony opens the laptop Coulson brought, he finds files containing information on Bruce Banner, Steve Rogers, and Thor. Pepper encourages Tony to help Coulson and get involved. Later, Coulson travels with Steve toward the S.H.I.E.L.D. base. During the trip, Steve reads through files about the other Avengers, while Coulson excitedly tells him that he was the world's first superhero and that he's a huge fan. Eventually, they arrive at the base, which is actually located aboard the helicarrier. Once on board, Steve meets Natasha Romanoff and Dr. Bruce Banner. Suddenly, the massive helicarrier lifts into the sky, leaving both Steve and Bruce impressed. Nick Fury and Maria Hill oversee the launch while the ship activates its advanced reflective panels, making it nearly invisible to anyone looking for it. Bruce is clearly uncomfortable being there. Worried that the Hulk could emerge at any moment, he asks Fury how long he'll be expected to stay. Fury assures him that once they locate the tesseract, he'll be free to leave. Bruce then explains that tracking the cube will require a large number of spectrometers. He suggests placing every available spectrometer on rooftops across multiple research facilities so they can detect the tesseract's gamma signature. Fury agrees and immediately puts the plan into motion. Elsewhere, Loki uses his scepter to communicate with the other. The other warns him that if he fails his mission and doesn't deliver the tesseract, the consequences will be severe. Determined to succeed, Loki puts Selvig and Barton to work. To bring the Chitauri army to Earth, they need to open a massive portal, and Selvig is leading that effort. However, Selvig needs a rare element called iridium to stabilize the portal. He tells Barton that they must acquire it from a nuclear scientist named Dr. Heinrich Schaefer. Barton points out that stealing it won't be easy, but Loki confidently assures him that they'll get it. The group travels to Stuttgart, Germany, where a high-profile gala is taking place. At the same time, S.H.I.E.L.D. agents aboard the helicarrier detect Loki's location through satellite surveillance. Fury immediately orders Captain America to head to Germany. Steve goes to suit up, wearing an upgraded version of his uniform that Coulson personally helped redesign. Back in Stuttgart, Barton eliminates several security personnel while Loki targets Dr. Schaefer. Loki attacks him and uses a device to scan his eye, giving Barton access to a secure vault. Barton successfully opens the vault and steals the iridium. The attack throws the entire event into chaos as guests begin running for their lives. Loki steps forward and creates multiple illusions of himself. Surrounding the crowd, he forces everyone to stop and commands them to kneel before him. One by one, the terrified civilians obey. Loki then delivers a speech, claiming that submission is humanity's true nature. He says people secretly crave servitude and willingly surrender their freedom, but one elderly man refuses to kneel. Standing tall, he tells Loki that he will never bow to someone like him. Enraged, Loki prepares to kill the man. Just before he can strike, Captain America arrives and saves him. Steve immediately engages Loki in combat, but Loki's power makes him a difficult opponent. Natasha also joins the fight from a Quinjet and attempts to attack Loki, but Loki strikes back, forcing her to pull away. Then Iron Man suddenly blasts onto the scene. Tony fires at Loki, sending him crashing across the area. He activates all of his weapon systems and prepares for a full fight. Realizing he's outmatched and surrounded, Loki unexpectedly surrenders. Loki is then loaded onto the Quinjet and taken toward the helicarrier. During the flight, Steve starts feeling that something isn't right. He tells Tony that Loki surrendered far too easily and that there has to be something else going on, but Tony doesn't pay much attention to the warning. Suddenly, lightning begins striking all around the aircraft. Out of nowhere, Thor arrives. Tony tries to stop him, but Thor attacks and takes Loki with him before anyone can react. Tony immediately goes after them. Steve tells him they should come up with a plan first, but Tony ignores him. Not wanting to leave them alone, Steve grabs a parachute and jumps out as well. Thor takes Loki to a remote location and demands to know where the tesseract is. Thor needs it because the tesseract could help him bring Loki back to Asgard, but Loki refuses to answer. Thor reminds him that he is his brother and says that everyone in Asgard mourned him because they believed he was dead. Loki bitterly replies that they were never truly brothers. He reminds Thor that he was adopted and claims that exile only made him stronger. After witnessing the true power of the tesseract, he now believes that Earth will soon belong to him. Thor tells him that these ambitions will only lead to destruction. He urges Loki to hand over the tesseract and abandon his twisted dreams. Loki calmly responds that he doesn't even have the tesseract. Frustrated, Thor grabs Loki and prepares to force answers out of him. That's when Tony arrives and blasts Thor away from Loki. Tony tells him not to steal his target again and jokingly asks if his mother knows he's wearing her curtains. Thor glares at him and tells the man in the metal suit to stay out of his way. Loki must be taken back to Asgard, where he can face justice. Tony replies that they need the tesseract first. Once they recover it, Thor can take Loki wherever he wants. The argument quickly turns into a fight. Thor and Iron Man clash in a brutal battle, each matching the other's strength. Thor unleashes a massive lightning strike directly at Tony. Instead of damaging the armor, the lightning supercharges it, pushing the suit's power levels even higher. Tony immediately uses that extra energy against Thor and starts gaining the upper hand. Before the fight can get any worse, Captain America arrives and steps between them. He demands to know why Thor is really there. Thor explains that he only wants to stop Loki before his plans destroy another world. Steve tells him that he'll have to prove it and asks him to put the hammer down. Tony laughs and says that without the hammer, Thor isn't much of a threat. Thor responds by sending him flying across the forest. Then he turns towards Steve, offended by the order to lower his weapon. In anger, Thor swings Mjolnir directly at Captain America. Steve raises his shield just in time. The moment the hammer collides with the vibranium shield, an enormous shockwave explodes outward. The blast tears through the area and throws both of them backward. After the dust settles, Steve tells Thor that none of them should be acting like this. Realizing that they're wasting time, the three heroes finally agree to work together. They bring Loki back to the helicarrier as a prisoner. Once aboard, Nick Fury places him inside a specially designed containment cell. Fury warns Loki that if he even tries to escape or damages the cell in any way, the entire cage will be dropped 30,000 feet straight to the ground. Fury then demands to know where the tesseract is. Loki responds by saying that humanity never truly understood what the tesseract was capable of. According to him, it possesses unimaginable power, yet humans wanted to use it as nothing more than an endless energy source. He promises that soon they will learn what its real purpose is. Elsewhere, Steve asks Thor what Loki's actual plan might be. Thor explains that Loki has allied himself with the Chitauri, a powerful alien army that will help him conquer Earth. In exchange, they expect to receive the tesseract. Hearing this, Bruce Banner realizes something important. Loki must be using Selvig to build another portal large enough to bring the Chitauri invasion force to Earth. A short time later, Tony arrives with Agent Coulson and shares another piece of the puzzle. He explains that Loki stole iridium because it can stabilize the energy produced by the tesseract. With enough iridium, the portal could remain open for as long as Loki wants. The only thing still missing is a massive power source capable of sustaining it. Bruce is impressed by Tony's reasoning and jokingly tells him that he's the only person in the room almost as smart as he is. While everyone is talking, Tony secretly plugs a device into Fury's computer network. He has started suspecting that Fury is hiding something from the team and wants answers. Moments later, Nick Fury enters and gives Tony and Bruce a new assignment. He wants them to study Loki's scepter and figure out how it was able to control the minds of Barton and Selvig. Tony and Bruce head to the lab and begin working together. As they continue their research, Tony tells Steve that Fury is definitely keeping secrets from them. Bruce agrees. Loki mentioned that S.H.I.E.L.D. intended to use the tesseract as an unlimited energy source, which doesn't add up with everything they've been told. Because of that suspicion, Bruce reveals that Tony's device is now digging through S.H.I.E.L.D.'s classified files. Soon, they should know exactly what Fury has been hiding. Determined to uncover the truth for himself, Steve begins searching the helicarrier and eventually makes his way to the restricted Phase 2 section, where all of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s secret Phase 2 projects are being stored. Meanwhile, Nick Fury approaches Thor and tells him that he believes Loki allowed himself to be captured on purpose. Something about the entire situation doesn't feel right. At the same time, Natasha arrives outside Loki's cell and begins questioning him about Clint Barton. She tells Loki a personal story, explaining that she once ended up on S.H.I.E.L.D.'s list of dangerous targets. Barton had originally been sent to eliminate her, but instead, he gave her a second chance and helped her start a new life. As the conversation continues, Natasha carefully manipulates Loki into revealing more than he intended. Eventually, she realizes that Loki's real plan is to use Bruce Banner's alter ego, the Hulk, to tear the helicarrier apart from the inside. Elsewhere, Fury discovers that Tony has been digging through S.H.I.E.L.D.'s classified systems. Furious, he confronts him and reminds him that he was supposed to be helping locate the tesseract. Bruce explains that he is currently tracking the cube's gamma signature and that they should have its location soon. But before the conversation can continue, Tony uncovers the truth about Phase 2. At the same time, Steve finds a collection of advanced weapons connected to the program and brings the evidence back to Fury. In front of everyone, he reveals that S.H.I.E.L.D. has been using the tesseract to develop powerful weapons. The revelation shocks the entire team. Tony immediately calls Fury out for keeping secrets. Natasha arrives as well and warns Bruce that Loki is trying to manipulate him. Bruce refuses to leave and says he wants answers first. He demands to know why S.H.I.E.L.D. has been building weapons with something as dangerous as the tesseract. Fury finally explains their reasoning. According to him, everything changed after Thor arrived on Earth. The destruction caused by conflicts involving Asgard showed humanity that they were not alone in the universe. There were civilizations out there with military power far beyond anything Earth possessed. Thor quickly fires back, arguing that S.H.I.E.L.D. brought this upon themselves by experimenting with the tesseract. Their actions attracted Loki and other powerful forces from across the cosmos. Fury insists that Earth had no choice. If alien threats existed, humanity needed stronger weapons to defend itself. In his eyes, the tesseract represented their best chance of survival. Before anyone can settle the argument, Loki's plan suddenly goes into motion. Far away from the main deck, Barton arrives with a group of mercenaries and launches an attack on the helicarrier. Using one of his explosive arrows, he destroys Engine 3. The impact triggers a massive explosion that shakes the entire ship. The blast reaches the laboratory, throwing everyone across the room. Maria Hill quickly reports that Engine 3 is offline and warns Fury that it must be repaired immediately. Fury turns to Tony and tells him that if another engine goes down, the entire helicarrier could fall out of the sky. Tony immediately heads for the damaged engine with Steve Rogers. After inspecting the damage, Tony realizes that the turbine itself is still functional. The real problem is that debris has become lodged inside it. He tells Steve to stand by a nearby red control lever. On Tony's signal, Steve will need to activate it so Tony can safely restart the turbine without being shredded by the machinery. Meanwhile, Natasha and Bruce have been thrown into one of the lower levels of the ship. The stress, fear, and chaos finally push Bruce over the edge. He transforms into the Hulk. The massive green monster immediately turns his attention toward Natasha. Since she was the one who brought him to the helicarrier, his rage seems focused on her. Natasha desperately runs for her life as Hulk smashes through corridors and relentlessly chases her. Not far away, Loki hears Hulk's roar echo throughout the ship. A smile spreads across his face. His plan is working perfectly. As Natasha struggles to survive, Hulk corners her and prepares to attack. Before he can strike, Thor crashes into him and sends him flying away. The two powerhouses immediately begin battling each other. Thor repeatedly strikes Hulk with Mjolnir, but Hulk keeps getting back up. At one point, Hulk even grabs hold of the hammer. However, because he isn't worthy, he can't lift it and is thrown aside. Thor continues pressing the attack and eventually grabs Hulk by the throat. At the same time, Barton's mercenaries launch assaults across the helicarrier. Nick Fury and Maria Hill fight back, taking down multiple attackers while trying to regain control of the situation. To help Thor, Fury orders a fighter jet to engage Hulk. The jet begins firing at the giant monster. Hulk instantly shifts his attention away from Thor and leaps toward the aircraft. He grabs onto it and starts tearing it apart mid-air. The pilot barely manages to eject before Hulk destroys the jet completely. The resulting explosion sends Hulk plummeting out of the sky. Meanwhile, Barton reaches the helicarrier's control center. He uploads a device into the system, causing catastrophic failures throughout the ship. One by one, the helicarrier's systems begin shutting down. Its engines start failing. The massive flying fortress begins losing altitude and plunging rapidly toward the ground. Fury quickly contacts Natasha and informs her that Barton has compromised their systems. He also warns her that Barton is heading toward Loki's holding cell. Knowing exactly what that means, Natasha immediately rushes off to stop him before it's too late. Meanwhile, Tony uses his laser systems to cut away the debris trapped inside the turbine. He then pushes the damaged engine back toward full power. Tony calls Steve and tells him to activate the control lever, but before Steve can do it, he's attacked by several of Barton's agents disguised as SHIELD personnel. Steve is forced into a fight and can't reach the lever in time. Elsewhere, Thor arrives at Loki's holding cell, only to discover that Loki has already escaped. Thor immediately tries to stop him, but the entire situation is a trap. Before Thor realizes what's happening, he ends up locked inside the prison cell himself. Loki walks over to the control panel and prepares to drop the entire containment chamber out of the helicarrier. Just then, Agent Coulson arrives, carrying a powerful experimental weapon. Coulson tells Loki that after the destroyer attacked Earth, SHIELD began developing new technology based on what they learned. He admits that the weapon is still a prototype and that he isn't even sure exactly what it can do. Before the blast can stop him, Loki tricks Coulson and drives the scepter through him. Thor watches helplessly from inside the cell as Coulson collapses. Without hesitation, Loki activates the release mechanism and sends Thor's prison cell plunging out of the helicarrier. As Loki prepares to leave, Coulson uses his remaining strength to tell him that he'll never win and that losing is all he's ever known. At that exact moment, the experimental weapon finally discharges its full energy. The blast strikes Loki and sends him flying across the room. Elsewhere, Natasha catches up with Barton and attacks him. The two engage in a fierce fight throughout the helicarrier. Eventually, Natasha slams Barton's head against a metal structure hard enough to knock him unconscious. The impact breaks Loki's control over his mind. At the same time, Tony is still struggling to keep the turbine running. The helicarrier begins stabilizing and slowly regains altitude. Tony desperately calls for Steve to activate the lever, but Steve is hanging from damaged wiring and barely holding on. Somehow, he manages to reach the control and pull the lever just in time. The turbine fully engages. Tony's life is saved, and the helicarrier remains airborne. Unfortunately, Loki has already escaped. Meanwhile, Thor continues falling toward Earth inside the prison cell. Moments before impact, he smashes his way out and escapes at full speed, avoiding certain death. Back on the helicarrier, Fury rushes to Coulson's side. With his final breaths, Coulson apologizes for failing to stop Loki. Fury tells him to stay awake and keep fighting. Coulson quietly accepts his fate. He says that maybe his death can become the thing that inspires the Avengers to come together. Moments later, Phil Coulson dies. The loss hits everyone hard. Fury gathers the team and informs them that Coulson is gone. The Avengers are devastated. Fury tells Steve that Coulson was one of his biggest fans. He even carried Captain America's trading cards everywhere he went, hoping to get them signed one day. Now, Fury admits that he doesn't know what to do next. Thor is missing, Hulk is gone, and they still have no idea where the tesseract is. Tony and Steve are deeply affected by Coulson's death. Elsewhere, Bruce Banner crashes into an abandoned building after falling from the sky. He has already transformed back into his normal human form. A security guard explains that when Bruce landed, he looked like a giant green monster. Fortunately, nobody else was around, so no one was hurt. The guard gives Bruce some clothes to wear, and Bruce sincerely thanks him. Back aboard the helicarrier, Barton is now being held in custody. Natasha stays with him and explains how she freed him from Loki's control. She tells him that she essentially reset his brain by hitting him hard enough to break the Mind Stone's influence. Natasha asks if he knows where Loki went. Unfortunately, Barton has no idea. Meanwhile, Tony and Steve finally figure out what Loki has been doing all along. He has been trying to divide the Avengers and turn them against each other. If they destroyed themselves, he wouldn't have to defeat them himself. They also realize something else about Loki. He sees himself as a king, a celebrity, a god. He wants attention. He wants people to worship him. And most importantly, he wants a massive tower with his name on it. That's when it clicks. Loki must be heading to Stark Tower. The tower's arc reactor is powerful enough to supply the energy needed for the tesseract portal. Back in New York, Selvig has already completed the portal device on top of Stark Tower. He begins using the tower's systems to channel energy into the tesseract. Steve gathers the remaining Avengers and tells them it's time to move. Without waiting for Fury's permission, they head out to stop Loki. This is exactly what Fury wanted. In reality, Coulson never carried those blood-stained Captain America cards. Fury deliberately covered them with Coulson's blood to give the Avengers something to fight for and push them into becoming the team they were meant to be. Soon afterward, Tony arrives at Stark Tower and confronts Selvig. Before arriving, Tony had already instructed his AI, Jarvis, to shut down the arc reactor's connection to the portal. But it doesn't matter anymore. The tesseract is now generating its own power. Tony orders Selvig to shut the machine down. Selvig sadly tells him that it's too late. The portal can no longer be stopped. According to him, the Tesseract wants to reveal Earth to an entirely new universe. Desperate, Tony fires a blast directly at the Tesseract. Instead of damaging it, the energy rebounds and throws Tony backward. The shockwave also sends Selvig flying. A moment later, Jarvis analyzes the energy field and reports the bad news. The Tesseract is protected by a shield that appears completely indestructible. Tony notices that Loki is still on Stark Tower. His armor has taken significant damage, so he tells Jarvis that he'll need to switch to his Mark VII suit. He lands on the tower and steps out of his damaged armor before approaching Loki. Instead of attacking right away, Tony tries to distract him with conversation. He tells Loki that the heroes are finally coming together and that he's about to face something he has never dealt with before, a team. Loki confidently replies that nobody can stop him. His army is already on its way. As they talk, Tony quietly slips on a special device connected to his Mark VII armor. Loki then claims that he can make Tony serve him, just like everyone else. He strikes Tony with the scepter, expecting to take control of his mind. Nothing happens. The arc reactor in Tony's chest prevents the scepter from affecting him. Furious, Loki attacks and throws Tony off the tower. Tony plummets toward the streets below. At the last possible second, the Mark VII armor launches toward him. The suit assembles itself around his body while he's still falling, saving his life just before impact. Now fully armored, Iron Man rockets back up and blasts Loki across the rooftop. But before he can finish the fight, the Tesseract activates. A gigantic portal tears open in the sky above New York City. Almost immediately, wave after wave of Chitauri soldiers begin pouring through it. Iron Man attacks them with everything he has, destroying dozens of enemy ships. But there are simply too many of them. Their numbers keep growing, and their advanced weapons allow them to spread chaos throughout the city. Panicked civilians run through the streets trying to escape. At that moment, Thor arrives and confronts Loki. He demands that Loki shut the portal down before even more innocent people die. Loki tells him that it's too late. The war has already begun. The brothers clash once again as the invasion continues. Soon, the rest of the Avengers arrive. However, Loki attacks their aircraft and causes it to crash. Fortunately, Barton manages to guide the damaged jet down safely, allowing everyone to survive. As if things weren't bad enough, even more Chitauri forces emerge from the portal. Massive Leviathan creatures begin flying through the city, smashing buildings, and causing even greater destruction. Thor tries one last time to reason with Loki. He tells him that ruling through fear will never bring peace, and that together, they could stop the disaster. Loki responds by betraying him and striking him when his guard is down. The attack injures Thor, but it also enrages him. Thor charges at Loki, forcing him to retreat. During the fight, Loki drops his scepter and escapes into the city while the Chitauri invasion continues. Down on the streets, Captain America, Black Widow, and Hawkeye begin rescuing civilians while fighting off Chitauri troops. Steve takes charge of the battlefield, directing police officers and emergency responders. He orders them to evacuate civilians and establish defensive positions throughout the city. Meanwhile, Iron Man starts drawing the attention of one of the gigantic Leviathans. Thor joins Steve and delivers some bad news. The Tesseract can't be shut down. Its energy shield appears completely indestructible. Just then, Bruce Banner finally arrives. Steve immediately contacts Tony and tells him to bring the Leviathan toward Bruce. Tony leads the enormous creature directly toward him. Then Bruce calmly delivers one of the most memorable lines in the movie. He reveals that the secret to controlling the Hulk is that he's always angry. Bruce transforms into Hulk. With a single devastating punch, Hulk stops the charging Leviathan dead in its tracks. The stunned creature crashes into the street, allowing Iron Man to finish it off. The Chitauri forces begin swarming in even larger numbers, but now the Avengers are finally fighting together as a true team. This becomes one of the most iconic moments in superhero movie history. For the first time, Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, Hulk, Black Widow, and Hawkeye stand united against a common enemy. Even Loki watches in disbelief, realizing the Avengers are holding their ground. He calls in even more Chitauri reinforcements through the portal. Steve quickly formulates a plan. Until they can shut down the portal, their only option is to contain the invasion and protect the civilians. Iron Man carries Hawkeye to a higher position overlooking the battlefield. From there, Barton begins taking out Chitauri soldiers and flying vehicles with incredible precision. Thor unleashes massive bolts of lightning, tearing through entire groups of enemies. Hulk charges through the city, smashing Chitauri ships, soldiers, and monsters with unstoppable force. Meanwhile, Natasha manages to hijack a Chitauri vehicle and pilots it toward the top of Stark Tower. Elsewhere, Thor and Hulk work together to destroy multiple Leviathans. After taking down one of the giant creatures, Hulk casually punches Thor as well, sending him flying across the battlefield. Far away from the fighting, Selvig has finally recovered from Loki's mind control. The blow he suffered earlier broke the influence of the scepter. Back in the city, Captain America rescues a group of civilians trapped inside a bank, surrounded by Chitauri soldiers. At the same time, the military finally arrives in Manhattan and begins assisting with the defense of the city. High above, Nick Fury watches everything unfold from the helicarrier. Then he receives a transmission from the World Security Council. The council has reached a decision. Believing the invasion cannot be stopped, they order a nuclear missile strike on Manhattan in an attempt to wipe out the Chitauri army. Fury immediately objects. He argues that thousands of civilians are still trapped in the city and refuses to authorize the attack. Meanwhile, Loki attacks Natasha before she can reach the portal controls. Fortunately, Hawkeye comes to her aid and drives Loki back. Their counterattack sends Loki crashing onto Stark Tower. Moments later, Hulk arrives. Loki, still believing himself superior, proudly declares that humans are beneath him and that he is a god who cannot be challenged. Hulk is not impressed. Without saying much, he grabs Loki and repeatedly slams him into the floor from side to side. The brutal beating leaves Loki completely helpless. As Hulk walks away, he casually calls Loki a puny god. Badly injured and unable to continue fighting, Loki is finally out of the battle. Meanwhile, Natasha reaches Selvig. Selvig reveals a critical piece of information. The portal can be closed, but the only thing capable of shutting it down is Loki's scepter, and that scepter is currently lying somewhere below Stark Tower. Meanwhile, despite Fury's objections, the World Security Council authorizes a nuclear strike on Manhattan. A fighter jet is given permission to launch the missile. Fury manages to stop one aircraft, but he can't stop the second one. The pilot launches the nuclear missile directly toward New York City. Realizing what's happening, Fury immediately contacts Tony and warns him that a nuclear missile will hit the city in less than 3 minutes. Without hesitation, Iron Man takes off toward the missile. At the same time, Captain America and the other Avengers are still fighting the Chitauri across the city. They've been battling non-stop and are beginning to wear down. Meanwhile, Natasha reaches the tesseract and prepares to close the portal. She informs the team that she's ready to shut it down, but Tony suddenly tells her not to do it yet. He explains that a nuclear missile is heading straight for Manhattan and that the only way to stop it is to send it through the portal. With no time left, Tony intercepts the missile and begins carrying it toward the sky. Before making his final move, he tries calling Pepper Potts one last time. Deep down, Tony believes he may not survive. Pepper is watching the invasion unfold on live television and never answers the call. Using every last bit of power left in his suit, Tony pushes the missile through the portal and into space. On the other side lies the massive Chitauri command ship directing the invasion. Seconds later, the nuclear missile slams into the ship. The explosion destroys the enormous vessel, and because the Chitauri forces are connected to it, their entire army instantly shuts down. Across New York, enemy soldiers, ships, and creatures begin collapsing. The invasion is over, but Tony has drifted unconscious in space. Back on Earth, the Avengers wait anxiously. Seconds pass, then minutes. Tony doesn't return. Fearing the worst, Steve finally tells Natasha to close the portal. Natasha uses Loki's scepter and shuts the portal down. Just before it closes completely, Tony's body falls back through the opening, but he's still unconscious and plummeting toward the city. Before he can hit the ground, Hulk leaps into the air and catches him. The Avengers gather around Tony. His arc reactor appears inactive, and he isn't moving. For a moment, everyone fears that Iron Man sacrificed himself to save the world. Then Hulk suddenly lets out a massive roar right next to him. The noise startles Tony awake. Everyone immediately breathes a sigh of relief. Steve smiles and tells him that they won. Still exhausted, Tony casually responds that there's a shawarma place a couple of blocks away and that they should all go eat after this. Thor reminds him that the mission isn't completely finished yet. Tony shrugs and says they can finish the job first and eat afterward. With the battle finally over, the Avengers capture Loki once and for all. All across New York, people begin celebrating. The citizens now see the Avengers as heroes. Thousands of lives were saved because they stood together. People cheer for them, thank them, and recognize them as Earth's mightiest defenders. Soon afterward, Thor takes Loki and the Tesseract back to Asgard. Meanwhile, the World Security Council confronts Nick Fury and criticizes him for allowing the Avengers to operate freely. They argue that the team is too dangerous. Fury calmly replies that the entire world already knows the Avengers are dangerous, but now the world also knows why they're needed. With the crisis over, the Avengers go their separate ways. Before leaving, Fury tells Maria Hill that whenever the world needs them again, the Avengers will return. And with that, the story comes to an end.